Their last go-round had really pissed him off, though. It wasn't the gift basket full of feminine hygiene products she'd had delivered to the office. It was how she'd tricked him out of the victory he had earned. If she wanted to play dirty, that was fine by Allon. Rotting lobsters it would be. They were currently marinating in some fish guts for good measure. Because Allon wasn't going to lose this time. One of his more nefarious contacts in the L.A. shifter underworld had slipped him the location of Dank's hideout. Being a skip tracer entailed befriending valuable, if despicable, people sometimes, even if that meant calling in a favor behind a sketchy club now and then in order to discover which cozy, remote cabins in the woods were actually safe houses for criminals. Simply dropping below the clouds like he was doing was a risk, because dragons were easy to spot. His innate magic only worked on humans, not other paranormal creatures, especially a dragon who cast as large a shadow as Allon. But he knew precisely where he was, and as he neared the small clearing, his heart jumped when he spied a dot of black hair by a pond. It was Dank Anguis, no doubt about it. The slight man's pale face looked up just as Allon passed over him. He was shirtless and appeared to be halfway through washing some clothes in the pond. The dripping wet shirt fell from his hands and his jaw dropped in surprise. Allon hugged his wings against his body to free fall toward the ground, at the same time Dank's body melted into the slender form of a snake. Allon's hideous maw curled into a grin. Charging toward the earth at full speed, air howled around his furled leathery wings as he extended his foreclaws like an eagle to snatch his whoomp. Something huge and airborne collided with Allon mid-air with the force of an out-of-control semi-truck, sending him into a death spiral. He released a gout of flame on reflex and shook his head as he recovered his balance and righted himself. He only got a brief view of the other dragon before it dive-bombed him again and thrust her full weight onto him. Chelle. He didn't need to know what she looked like to know in his bones it was her. Allon's size as a dragon stayed proportional to his towering human stature, but even so, Chelle's dragon was far larger than he'd expected. The two colossal dragons snarled and grappled with each other in the air as they tumbled together, jaws snapping and warning gouts of flame threatening to sear them the longer they stayed entangled. Chelle purposefully used her weight to try and drop them from the air, and her strategy worked. But he wasn't going to let her steal the mark out from under him this time. He kicked her exposed underbelly with his hind feet as they hit the tree line. She hissed, but managed to spin him around to let him take the brunt of the impact as they crashed into Dank's clearing. Chunks of grass and soft earth sprayed out 100 feet as if a bomb had exploded, leaving them lying in a small crater of their own making. Allon staggered to his feet, shaking his wings, which sent another shower of dirt and rocks flying. As he tried to make the wildly tilting world straighten up again, the sound of beating wings caught his attention. Chelle was trying to take flight again. Before he managed to get his breath back, he lunged and snapped his jaws around her tail, tugging her back to earth and flinging her into the tree line. Her ear-splitting screech of fury sent any woodland creatures nearby scurrying for safety. The trees groaned with the impact, but she was back on her feet in an instant. Allon got his first full look at her as she snorted smoke, glaring at him as she pawed at the ground before launching herself at him once more. Before their skulls collided, Allon had been stunned by how surprising her form was. The shock was short-lived. They tumbled down their crater and back out the other side. Allon snapped at her with his jaws, but she thrust her hind legs out at just the right angle to get plenty of leverage and send him flying. Halfway through the air, he caught sight of Dank's clothes, lying damp and useless on the ground. The snake was nowhere to be seen. The bastard had escaped. Allon tumbled across the clearing, but before he even finished rolling, he shifted back to his human form to call off the fight. He skidded to a stop and pushed himself to his feet. The fact that he didn't get hit with a face full of tail told him Chelle must have noticed the situation too. Naked, he stood to his full height and dusted the fresh earth and leaves off his rippling muscles, bulging after the exertion. Scanning the clearing for any sign